It is election night in America, and we are continuing to track races both in our state and nationally.
We have team coverage on all the numbers for you on this election night. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dennis House. Thanks for joining us.
And I'm Lisa Carberg. News 8 is your local election headquarters, and we are tracking the results coming in thanks to your votes.
We have team coverage for you tonight. Let's begin with News 8's Mike Cerulli in Hamden with the results from that mayoral race, as well as insight on why this election day is making history across our state. Mike?
Yeah, good evening to you, Dennis and Lisa, from Hamden, where the Democratic candidate Adam Sendroff has declared a resounding victory in a field of 4 candidates, one of the most closely watched mayoral races in the whole state. And I can tell you, based on the results we're seeing, based on what we're hearing from our sources across the state, it is appearing to be shaping up to be quite a big night for Democrats. When we began this night, we told you about all those races where there's open mayoral seats, where Democrats are maybe trying to flip seats that were once or currently held by Republicans. And it appears at this hour as though that is happening. We are hearing word out of towns like New Britain. We're hearing it out of Ansonia. We're hearing it out of Milford. We're hearing it out of Stratford. That in all of those places where there were heavily contested mayoral seats, the Democrats are declaring victory or appear on track to win there. Here in Hamden, less of a question about whether or not the Democrats would win, more of a question of whether or not that voter anger in this town over those high property taxes would trigger somewhat of an oppositional vote. There were 2 candidates really vying to challenge the Democratic nominee, Adam Sendroff. Both of them appear to have fallen well short of the necessary amount to build a majority in this blue town. Perhaps the biggest win of the night for the Democrats here in Connecticut was in New Britain, where long-term Republican Mayor Aaron Stewart declined to run for re-election. Questions early on over whether or not they'd be able to hold that seat, the GOP. And I can tell you that the Democratic candidate in that race has called the Republican candidate rather, has called the Democrat to concede. Also tracking, as you said, around this country races. And one of the most important ones was in New York City. And behind me right now, there are folks here in Connecticut gathered to celebrate the victory of Democratic mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani, who has won that race in the city. Of course, very important to the Connecticut economy, what happens down in New York City. So we're tracking all of it for you across the state. We're going to have more throughout the night on reactions to these wins and what it means here in Connecticut, that it appears Democrats have had a very big night in these municipal elections. You're going to hear from a very senior Democrat coming up in our 11 o'clock show about what he believes this night is sending as a message here in Connecticut and, of course, across the country. That's all coming up when we see you at 11 o'clock. For now, live in Hamden, Mike Cerulli, News 8.